It's time for Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group with certified financial planners Kevin Korhorn, Mike Bernard, and Josh Gregory.
Welcome to another episode of the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group, where every week we're helping you take your next wise step in your financial life. Thanks for being here, friends. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm your host. I'm also one of the CFPs on the program. With me in the KFG studios, my business partners and fellow CFPs, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory.
The Secure Act 2.0 will impact your financial life and financial decisions that you should be making. The question is not if it will, it's how it will. And that's what we're going to be covering today with you. The biggest ways the Secure Act 2.0 will impact your financial plan. That and more on this episode.
All right, I'm not going to lie, guys. This is just, we're keeping it real. Every show, the Wise Money Show, is unscripted, but that little tagline I usually write and tee up, and Josh always changes it. But he actually read the right.
I'm honoring you today,
He read
Mike.
it today, so maybe I did it right. I don't know. All right, if you have any questions for the program, and you're going to have a lot. We're talking about the Secure Act, guys. It's just changed everything. If you have any questions or need some help, my goodness, we are here to help you. You can call or text us 574-222-2000. That's 574-222-2000, online, wisemoneyshow.com, and then all over social media, especially the YouTube channel. So much content in the Secure Act 2.0. We've made a lot of it, distilling a lot of it to you through the YouTube channel. Go check it out. Search the Wise Money Show. All right, so the omnibus spending bill, we were at Christmas Eve, I think, and I got the notice that it passed and that President still needed to sign it. But I'm like, omnibus spending, $1.7 trillion. Oh, this is the Secure Act 2.0. Mm-hmm. So over 4,000 pages that not a single senator read, I'm sure. Just kidding. I hope some of them did. 100 tax law changes, some of them enormous. Now, we're still digesting the Secure Act 1.0. And guys, I want to get your opinions on this really quick before we get into the details. But Secure Act, all these things it's an acronym. So setting every community up for retirement enhancement. I think that's malarkey, if I can use my dad, a dad adjective. What do you guys think of the Secure Act 2.0? Good, bad, indifferent, thoughts?
Well, as I am approaching the double nickel here as it relates to age, I'm tired. I'm doggone it. I am tired of them moving the cheese. I mean, one of the greatest things to me as a planner and a guy that works with small business owners is we would talk to small business owners and they would say, "Hey, I need a retirement plan. I want to put my money into people, not a retirement plan. How can we do that?" Well, Simple IRA is a great option, and it can be a great option depending, but you didn't have the Roth as an opportunity.
Yeah.
And so that was problematic because if you had people who were literally paying no federal taxes, putting money into pre-tax money, that's a bad deal.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm getting all excited right now because now you've got the Roth. We're going to explain this more, but they've made it not simple anymore. Simple IRA used to be simple, but
Right.
If only we could Roth. Well, now we can Roth, but it's so not simple anymore.
Right. And so this is the thing. I've spent my whole career telling people the difference between the simple IRA and the 401k and how do you make your decisions and all this stuff. And now they've changed everything. So that's okay. This is a show about financial planning, and we want to help people make great financial planning decisions. There's never been a better time in the history of the world to accumulate wealth, but there's never been a more complicated time. And thank you, federal government, for stepping in and making it just exponentially more complicated.
That was his sarcastic voice.
It's job security for the nerdy financial advisors in the world,
Well,
though, right?
Yeah,
if you can keep up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you do financial planning.
That's right. That's right. I agree, though, that we've spent most of our career explaining certain rules that were pretty stable for a long, long time until the Secure Act came out. And now the Secure Act 2.0 adds a whole nother tidal wave of change. So, even we as financial advisors that live and breathe this all day, every day, and try to understand the rules of the game, and the rules change over time, and therefore the strategies need to change. So that's what we're going to try to unpack today is not just, hey, what are those rule changes, but what does it mean for you? And
Yeah.
it's still early, though. I mean, I think most of the financial world was still trying to figure out how does the strategy change from Secure Act 1.0 at some level, right?
The IRS still is trying to interpret some rules regarding this first big change that we're going to talk about. So the big idea is things are changing. You've got to take a fresh look at all 6 areas of your financial life to see, well, the decisions that I've been making, the stuff I've been doing in my finances, is that still the wise choice? Or with these changes, is there now a better option out there? So there's no way we're going to hit all 100. We're going to hit more of them next week as well. But I tried to distill it into, okay, what are the biggest changes within the Secure Act 2.0? And the first one is the change to required minimum distributions again. So let's get into those rules.
Yeah, for most of our career, we quoted this strange age that you had to start pulling money out of your retirement accounts, your traditional retirement accounts, at age 70 and a half. And the first round of Secure Act 1.0, raised that to 72. At least it was a nice even number, right?
Right.
And now they're changing it again. They're increasing it even further. It jumps now to age 73, on its way to age 75, and so it's a moving target. But basically, it just means you get to wait a little longer before the government makes you start pulling money out of those accounts.
If you are born, if your birth year is 1960 or earlier or later, or however you want to view that, right? 1960 or after, then your required minimum distribution age is 75. For everyone else now, it's 73, unless you've already started your required minimum distribution. And this weird rule means no one is aging into RMD this year. No one. Because last year, the RMD age was 72. And you would have started last year, and you've got to continue taking it this year then. Well, if you were 72 last year, then you're turning 73 this year. And therefore, no one turning 73 this year will have to start RMD because you were 72 last year and you started it last year. Does that make sense? It's a little confusing.
No, Mike, actually, it makes no sense. And I would say if you're somewhere between 70 and 80, you need to be talking to your tax planner and your financial planner and making sure you're getting all of this right.
We're going to hit this same nonsensical year gap in 2023 or 2033 because when it changes to age 75. But a couple things with this. We were just talking about this before we got on the air. There's a lot of dissenting opinion about this. To me, required minimum distribution, I don't like required anything, especially taxes. So financial planning is all about choice, maximizing the number of choices you have, and then picking the very best one. So if they're delaying this requirement, great. You now have more choice, more flexibility. But there's a lot of people out there that say, well, wait a second. Now, if you don't draw until 75, your IRA is presumably bigger, and you're still age 75. So when you turn on your required distribution, you've got to take out a larger amount. How that calculation works is based on the size of your IRA or your pre-tax retirement accounts the year before, but then divided by a factor, a divisor based on your life expectancy. Well, at 75, your life expectancy is still what it was today at 75, and therefore it's a larger amount you need to take out from your RMD. To me, that's not a negative. That just means more planning.
That's right. The people that dissent against a later requirement date, they're assuming that you're not doing something proactive in your financial life. And one of the things that we're often talking about are Roth conversions, moving that IRA money over into a Roth and paying the tax proactively. Well, now you have a couple more years where you've got free reign to be able to do that. Because keep this in mind, when you start taking your required minimum distributions out of an account, that required amount cannot be converted. Right? But, just 1 year earlier, when you were a little bit younger, you could have taken that same dollar amount and converted it over to a Roth. So now you're just buying yourself more time to be strategic in your thinking, right? Mm-hmm. Be proactive with your planning. And I don't know, I see this entirely as a positive thing.
Inherited IRAs, those rules haven't changed, but we still don't have clarity. Despite these 4,000 pages, Congress didn't help the IRS give us clarity as to when you inherit a pre-tax IRA, you now have to withdraw the entire account within 10 years. Secure Act 1.0 got rid of what's called the stretch IRA. We're not going to go into that right now. You've got to withdraw the entire account. The account needs to be empty within 10 years. And but the IRS is still trying to determine, well, do you need to take a required minimum distribution each of those 10 years as well as have it empty in 10 years? Or is it just have the account empty? I think they're going to say you've got to do an RMD and have the account empty in 10 years. But that's for inherited accounts. No changes with that. Guys, this is the easy one. This is probably the one you already knew about. Big changes in the Secure Act 2.0. We're helping with that and more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for being here. This is the Wise Money Show. What you're watching right now is our weekly 1-hour talk show that airs right here on this channel, 10 a.m. Eastern Time every Saturday morning, also on podcast, also on a couple local radio stations as well, which is why the content is broken up the way that it is. But make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, because on this channel, lots of other content that we drop that's directly for YouTube, directly for you, taking a financial concept, financial principle, applying it directly to your financial life with a perspective of how you can do so with a wise approach, looking at all 6 areas of your financial life. What are your choices? Okay, how do you decide the wise choice? And so make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and if you like the content, leave comments below. Thank you very much.
Do you have a running total of the number of pieces of content you've put out there on YouTube with those daily? What's that?
Yeah, we could get
I'm
it.
just curious.
Okay, so
It is mounting, isn't
the
it?
QCD,
Numbers growing.
you're able to make a one-time direct qualified charitable contribution of $50,000 to a charitable trust.
Okay.
So fire those bad boys up, and the annual IRA qualified charitable contribution limit of 100 will now be indexed for inflation.
All right. So here's the sticky one, but it's the big one, 529 to Roth.
Yep.
And we're not going to be able to say everything, and we're going to hit it again in next week's show as well.
Well,
So-
so do we go into the financial planning ramifications of this?
This show is about financial planning, not a Secure Act 2.0 recap. So if it only means we hit 5 of the rule changes instead of 6, that's okay. And you know, I don't know, YouTube, sort of a joke, sort of not. I mean, we'll be talking about these rule changes for years.
Right.
So we're not going to be able to say everything.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, you know they're changing the retirement savers contribution credit. Have you heard this?
No.
Beyond just raising the limits?
Oh my goodness, guys. You might fall off. Do you have your seatbelt? They are no longer giving you a tax credit on your tax return. Instead, they're going to deposit the tax credit into your retirement account. The IRS.
No way.
Correct.
How?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
And to me, I wonder, I'm extremely suspicious about this. Because embedded, and we might get to it today, there's a bunch of rules where they're making your retirement accounts more accessible in a time of need. And yet they're going to give you this credit into your 401k or your IRA or your Roth IRA or your retirement account. Why?
Yeah.
Is it because they want to have access to your retirement accounts? Is this some backwards way? And I know this is sounding conspiracy theory, but that is insanity.
Yeah. To have a direct link between your retirement account and the government's coffers.
Exactly.
But you would argue that's
Wow.
the group of people that need the money in their hands now.
You would think.
Yeah. Because in order to
No,
qualify
no,
for the savers
actually-
credit, you are
actually-
lower income.
No, actually, I would argue those are the people that need the money at retirement the very most.
But
those
Kevin-
are the people, Lindsay, that have the sense that they need the money now. But it isn't.
Then why create a new emergency withdrawal exception? Why create a new savings account that's linked to your 401k that you can pull money out of? Why create why loosen a bunch of other 72T rules? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It truly
It's contradictory, at least. Yep. That's interesting.
Well,
And-
we've got a first here.
doesn't. And so, well, I contributed to both my
First time in your career you've been puzzled by something the
No,
government's
the
doing?
first time there's been any contradictory legislation passed. Because it was not actually. It's not the secure act that was passed. It was the 2023 Consolidated Appropriations Act
Right.
that was signed that contained.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Savers Credit Match flips in 2027. So they've got 4 years to figure this out. Unbelievable. All right, let's keep going. That was a long break. Here we go. You got to rethink the 529 right now because of these new rules. How are you planning with the 529? The Secure Act 2.0, you've got to take a fresh look at that. We're helping you with it right now. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name's Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Stay up to date on all Wise Money content. Find us online, wisemoneyshow.com. Careful with your coffee cup on that microphone, Kevin.
Here.
And all over social media, wherever you're at, we are there as well. Okay, we're hitting the big changes, the biggest changes in the Secure Act 2.0. There's 100 tax law changes. Guys, we're not going to hit everything. We're not going to scratch the surface. I hope we're going biggest to smallest, though. In my opinion, the biggest is the now 529 to Roth IRA transfer that they're allowing starting in 2024. I don't think they're going to have this figured out by then. And I think the way they wrote the rules, there's probably not going to be many people that can actually pull it off that soon. But yes, you heard us right. Starting next year, you're going to be able to move money from a 529 plan directly into a Roth IRA. How's it work?
Yeah, there's a bunch of catches to all that, right? The 529 plan had to have been open for 15 years, I believe. You're limited over your lifetime on how much you can do of these types of transfers.
35,000.
And
Wait,
each time
35 in your lifetime?
Correct.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think that might be getting figured out.
Okay.
So
All of these rules, guys, especially this one, it makes no sense, and it's such a huge debacle. I wouldn't be surprised if we know more of the details over time.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
And they can change, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Congress can add addendums and make adjustments and so on. But one of the other, I guess, caveats that we would add to this is that when you make a transfer from the 529 plan to the Roth IRA, it's treated as a contribution.
Right.
So you're limited in how much you can do each year. Right now, of course, the contribution limits for a Roth IRA are $6,500, and so it will take you some time to reach that $35,000 limit over your lifetime. You could either max out your Roth IRA for a few years, or maybe you use your 529 plan to just supplement the savings that recently graduated student of yours is making to their own Roth IRA.
So the 529 needs to be open for 15 years. I think there's going to be a boom of 529 plans open this year. Good. The money that you transfer from that 529 to your Roth cannot be money that you contributed within the last 5 years. So you can't just open this 529 for yourself right now and then think, well, I'm going to throw money into that, and if I make too much money, I don't know. There's just
I don't
a
know
lot.
how they would track that one.
I don't know either.
no,
don't know any of this.
It's all voluntary compliance. But here's the interesting thing, which I've had a theory or philosophy from the very beginning, is that if you just max out what you can do or what makes sense from a tax planning perspective, any of the coupons that the government gives you. So, for instance, if you lived in the state of Indiana in 2022, you'd likely put $5,000 into a 529 plan, and you get a 20% credit on that, or $1,000 back on your taxes. Well, in 23, they moved it to $7,500, so now I can get $1,500 back. If you've been doing that all along, and people say, well, do I really need to do that all along? What if I don't have kids? What if I don't have kids that are going to college? What if my kids have already gone to college? If you're going to end your life with extra money left over, the 529 plan is actually a great place to have money when you die. As a matter of fact, so is the Roth IRA, and a traditional IRA isn't a bad place either.
So we've often called the 529 plan the Roth IRA, but for college, because as you make contributions, there's no tax deduction on those contributions. The investment activity is sheltered within it, so it grows tax deferred. And then when you withdraw your contribution, Well, you never deducted it in the first place, so no biggie. When you withdraw the growth, as long as you used it for qualified educational expenses, then it's tax-free. So very similar to the Roth. I'm explaining this because, Kevin, one of the things that the states will now need to figure out is when you then use that 529 money and move it over to your Roth, do you have to repay any of those state benefits that you got for making your contribution? I would assume that you would, but the states have, if we're all scrambling to figure out what this means and the IRS is going to scramble to figure out how to interpret this, states are definitely going to scramble to say, well, then what should we do?
Yeah, and the interesting thing is if you started with the Indiana 529 plan in 2007 when they first came out with this credit, you've got some money in your plan. If you've been taking money out as you go and then you say, okay, I can't take any money out that's been put in the last 5 years, there's no way you could distinguish between money I put in 2007 that's at the bottom of the barrel and money that I just put in the account.
Exactly. They'd have to come up with some sort of last in, first out type of rule that they do on other areas. But to me, this solves part of the concern that a lot of families, when they look at 529 plans, there's almost this hesitancy to get extra dollars or too much money in a 529 plan. In other words, they don't want to get to the end of the college years and have leftover or surplus, because the rules are when you pull money out of a 529 plan, if you're not using them for college, those qualified college expenses that Mike was referring to, then you have to pay taxes on the growth and a 10% penalty. And that just kind of freaks some people out. Even if we're talking tiny little dollars, and you were still economically better off having that money growing for you in the account, paying a little bit of tax, maybe even a little bit of penalty at the end is not the end of the world. But with the Secure Act 1.0 and the 2.0 now, they've given you some outs here. Yeah. With Secure Act 1.0, remember, you're allowed to pull $10,000 out and use it to pay for student loans. So that was kind of a way to not worry too much. I've got an extra 10 grand of buffer there. You also now, as we're saying, you can basically flip those dollars out of the 529 into a Roth IRA, taking them from education purpose to now retirement. And what a wonderful way to help your recent graduate, your now adult son or daughter, get some money going for their own retirement. You already benefited, hopefully, from letting dollars accumulate over time in an education account without being taxed. Now, what if you could add a whole bunch of decades and let this money grow tax-free for their retirement? The compounding power of that is pretty significant.
Yeah, I mean, as you get all starry-eyed and you're falling in love with this concept, this is the perfect financial planning issue right here, because it brings up all kinds of things. It appears as though it's a $35,000 per lifetime per beneficiary, as I understand it.
Right.
So if you have 3 kids, that's $35,000 for each. And so, Joshy over here is getting all excited, but the thing is, you have to talk to your financial planner to say, hey, do I have, if I had 3 kids, do I have an extra $105,000 that I can funnel through the 529 plan? And then again, if I'm in the state of Indiana, is Indiana going to claw back the credit that they give me as we go? But then when should I give that money to my children?
Right.
Should I give it to them right when they're out of college? I don't think so. And if I give them $35,000 and I put it in over time, can they take the basis out? Because if they can take the basis out, and they understand it, and they're not perfectly responsible. Now, I'm sure if you're listening today, your kids are all very responsible. But there are some folks whose kids couldn't handle having that extra money.
Wow.
Or what about the habit? Sorry, Josh, I'm cutting you off. But what about you? When your child starts their career, starts working, you want them to build the habit of saving up for their future. But what if for the first, what would that be, 5 years or so? You say, no.
I got this for you.
Mom and Dad got this for you. You just go continue your experience instead of building these habits that will actually help you be financially free over the long term. We got you.
What if, though, you created almost a match incentive where you said, hey, I've got these leftover 529 plan dollars. I will start feeding them into your Roth IRA if you're doing the same. Almost like an employer would.
Okay, so back that truck up a little bit. What if you said to your kids, I've got this much money in your 529 plan. You're going to college. If you use it all for college, it's gone. If you don't, there'll be money that I can put into a Roth IRA after you're done with college.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, instead of Ivy League, they might be thinking Ivy Tech.
All right. So the big idea here, I think the aim of Congress was to help manage or help reduce the future growth of the student loan debt crisis. I don't think this does it, guys. I love the financial planning implications, and you should talk to your CFP about how you should make some changes with this, but I don't think it touches the student loan debt ceiling. Guys, or debt issue. All right, lots more changes to come. We've got that and more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group.
There is no student loan debt ceiling,
No,
baby.
there's-
To the
Sky's the
moon.
limit, right?
To the moon.
So we're recording this during the debt ceiling limit issue. That was so that was on my brain. All right, we very short break here.
What's next?
Catch-up contributions. So let's hit that. Catch-up contributions and then Roth, the required Roth contribution. And I just want to check again, when does that part start? Required Roth is 24. Catch-up contributions.
And that's where there's a little bit of
So does every 401k have to get amended to reflect that?
Essentially, yeah.
yeah, so it restated. But actually that's not a bad deal. I mean, these 401ks have to get restated every so often. So this is a good time, a little bonus content. This is a good time if you're a business owner, because basically this act, the government will take money from the people and give it to the business owner to have a retirement plan in place for basically the first 5 years.
You're make everyone mad. We are going to do a show
It
about.
wasn't my idea. Don't blame.
Don't shoot the messenger.
Don't blame the victim.
Yeah, but to make the connection, because it really sounds nice to say, "Oh, employer, you'll get a tax credit for all of the administrative fees and all of your match for the first." Oh, you'll get a tax credit. Yeah. That means taxpayers are paying for it.
But that's not being cynical to just state that, right? Because we as Americans
Feels-
sometimes we don't pause and think all this spending comes from somewhere,
Well,
right?
I love my children, but I remind. Here's the thing: if you don't know where the money's coming from and you don't know how it gets in the account, your ability to spend it wisely goes out the window.
Yeah.
So I think that should be constantly in front of us in the most loving way possible to talk about wealth transfers.
I think as each generation grows older, the younger generations don't have that connection as much because the debt feels so far away, and it's like, oh, well, that's not even realistic. And I feel like that view and perspective is getting diluted.
I have hope.
Yeah.
Every day.
I have hope for the Gen Zers. They are quite a generation. I believe in them.
All right, so here we go. Third segment. Catch-up contributions are getting a very confusing overhaul. How does it work, and then how does it impact your financial plan? We're helping with that right now. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name's Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Hitting Secure Act changes, and listen, if you're getting a bite-sized chunk right now, make sure you go to the Wise Money YouTube channel, subscribe to it, because we've talked about all of these changes. Specifically, and the planning implications right there on that channel. So go to YouTube, search the Wise Money Show, subscribe to it there. Make sure you turn on notifications. All right, here we go. The third big change within the Secure Act 2.0 that we're talking about is new catch-up contributions. And again, I'll just tell you, this is sort of the theme with Secure Act 2.0. You now have more options, but they've made it so stinking confusing, it almost feels like it's a negative. So how's it work?
Well, let's start with IRAs. So with an IRA, they took the IRA contribution limit from $6,000 to $6,500, and the catch-up contribution starts at $50. So I can do an extra 1,000 on top of that. So think
Starts at age 50.
Age 50.
yeah,
Yep.
that's what I said. And so at age 50, I can do 7,500. Right, one of the few benefits of getting older. So you can do 7,500, but that 1,000 is gonna go up with inflation.
Now, thankfully. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So that is,
And we're hoping inflation goes up very little. And so we're hoping that doesn't change that much, actually.
right. So and a lot of times people are a little confused because you can do a traditional IRA, which would think pre-tax, or you can do after tax in that traditional IRA. Or if you, depending on your income, you can do a Roth IRA. So there's anyone who has earned income or who has a spouse who does, at least 7,500 or for a couple 15,000, you could fully fund an IRA. And people think, well, I either can fund an IRA or a 401k, and that simply is not the truth.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You actually have multiple buckets available to you if you work for an employer that's offering a 401k, and those limits have been increasing as well. The 401k catch-up contribution is up to $7,500 now.
Yeah,
right?
at age 50. Yep.
At age 50, which means if everyone can contribute up to $22,500, and at age 50 you can do another $7,500, it's now $30,000 that you can contribute to a 401k if you're over age 50.
If you would have asked me that early in my career, that would have been the limit, I would have said, no way. That's not possible.
Right.
And it is.
So the complexity, though, that Mike is referring to is that they've added another tier, another age that we have to keep track of, and it's age 60.
But it's not just that. If they would have added another tier and then that's it until you ride off into retirement, I think everyone would say, yeah, this is a little more confusing, but I get it. That's great. And they
But now there's a calculation involved.
I
Is
feel
that
like-
what's making you angry?
No. So here's how it works, guys. At age 60, instead of having a $7,500 catch up, it's now 10 grand or 150% of what the current catch up is, which, by the way, 150% of the current catch up is 11,250. So why even put the 10 grand in there? So it might make sense. Well, okay, at age 50, I have one catch up, and then when I turn 60, I have a new catch up. And that's sort of the case, but sort of not, because you've got this unique catch up contribution of either 10 grand or 150% of the catch up. So you've got this higher catch up. The year you turn age 60, the year you turn age 61, the year you turn age 62, and the year you turn age 63. What happens at 64? It goes back to the old catch up.
Of course.
Of
Why-
course.
Why wouldn't you do it that
right?
way?
I mean, if you didn't see that coming, that makes no sense.
Follows logic. It makes perfect sense, Mike.
So at age 64, your catch-up contribution would drop back down to 7,500, and it would be that at 65, 66, 67, and then whenever you retire. That makes no sense. Just switch it at age 60 and say this is your new catch-up. If you're age 60 or older,
From here
here's
on
your
out.
catch-up.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. It's all, so what is ketchup? And in my brain is stuck this Simpsons episode of Mr. Burns. Ketchup. So, but what is a ketchup? It is you've got you're in the home stretch here before retirement, and if you're behind, we're going to give you an extra little amount that you can contribute if you're trying to play catch up. So, if that's the case, if that's the premise, then why give this little 4-year from 60 to 63 spot? If you're really behind, that probably means you got to work at 64 and at 65 and at 66 and 67 as well. You're probably working those years. Most of us will, by the way. That's not like just if you're behind. Most of us will need to work that long. Make the catch-up go all the way till then.
I agree.
Mike,
I agree. You've convinced me.
No,
Okay.
I think you should relish these changes.
Wow.
Yeah, this ketchup is perfect. It's just the right thing to put on top. But when you said it's a new tier, I was thinking it's a new TEAR. Yes, it is a new tier. You can follow the tracks of my tiers. As I look at this is why you need to be working with a financial planner, because I can't tell you how many times we started working with folks and we'll sit down and folks that are, have their act together. and they're like, "Yep, we're maxing out our retirement plans. We're doing our 529. We're doing HSA, all this stuff," and they either are not or they're not maxing it out. And it's amazing to me. It's not a critique. It's not a criticism. It's an observation of how incredibly complex life is. And if you're pretty good at stacking Benjamins, you might not have a ton of time to be doing other stuff, like looking at your paycheck stub to make sure that the catch-up contribution is happening now that you're 50 plus, or fill in the blank. And this is why you need both a coach and I'm going to say like a CFO, overseeing things, making sure that you're getting done all the things that you want to get done.
Yep. Or the things that you need to get done based on your retirement plan, right? Because
Sure.
you may not even be able to quantify just yet, well, how much do I need to be contributing? And do I need to make up for some lost time because I didn't get started real early, or there were those child rearing years where it was a little bit tight and harder to contribute to long-term goals like retirement? But there's coming a day for many people where they are empty nesters. They're at their peak earning years. And here's another one that might allow you to actually take advantage of these larger catch-up contributions. There may be inheritance dollars that are coming at some point. And often that can be the game changer for a lot of people where, if you heard me say earlier that at age 50, you can start contributing $30,000 to a retirement plan, and you're like, I don't have 30 grand lying around to be able to contribute. I don't have that much margin in my budget. That's bigger than what I need it to be. So I don't even need this catch up. Well, maybe you will, though, if all of a sudden you start receiving some dollars that maybe you didn't earn in a paycheck, but you received it as a gift or an inheritance. And all of a sudden, that extra catch-up contribution can make a big difference on your tax planning and your readiness for retirement.
So in simple terms, you inherit 100 grand in an IRA from mom. You now have to take that 100 grand out within 10 years. And as you take it out, you have to report it on your tax return. Well, what if you take that out and you increase your 401k contribution by 10 grand because you're now allowed to because of these strange, confusing, frustrating, yet looser catch-up contributions?
Yeah, you just neutralize that extra income from mom's inheritance.
That's
right?
exactly right. So, and there's some mistakes in the language of this rule that the IRS or Congress will need to clean up. We can talk about that later. I got to sneak in one other thing. We'll probably pick this up in the next segment as well. While I love all of that, and again, the Secure Act 2.0 creates a lot of new options that are very confusing, but it gives you choice. There's a catch-up contribution rule within the Secure Act 2.0 that actually eliminates choice, and that is, if you are what's called a high wage earner, so you make more than $145,000, there's a rule now that requires your catch-up contribution to go on the Roth side of your 401k. You have no choice. And this isn't, well, when you turn 60. No, any catch-up contribution. So starting at age 50, if you're contributing the catch-up contribution and you make more than that, it has to go into the Roth 401k. What if your 401k doesn't offer a Roth? Get this. No one at the entire company will be able to do a Roth or a catch-up contribution. No one. So it effectively is going to force every plan to update their rules to allow a Roth 401k. We're going to pick that back up. And then there's a few other smattering of other changes in the Secure Act 2.0. We're going to help you with that and more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group.
So after tax, catch-up contributions don't count. It has to be going into a Roth.
That's what it says.
That's interesting. You know, a bill that's, what, 4,000 pages? Is that what
Yeah, I
you
think
said?
it's 4172 if I'm right.
That's not written by one person who's coordinated all 4,100 pages, right? There's all kinds of groups. Just what's the old book, Stone Soup? Everyone's kind of bringing something to contribute to the pot, and they don't all coordinate. So there can be contradictions within rules like this, and we get to sort it out after the fact.
I want to pick that back up and restate that, and we can talk about implications. And then in the outline, I've got emergency savings withdrawal, emergency link savings account. I can explain those if that's unfamiliar. And then employer match being Roth. We're going to run out of time. And again, I don't know if we've given enough time to, okay, how does this impact your financial plan? So 4 segment, we've hit 4 of the rules. We're going to hit a couple more. But we've got next week's show as well to hit more stuff. So, all right. Are you going to be required to have your matching contribution go in to the Roth 401k at a time when maybe you're looking for tax deductions? We're explaining that rule and more. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Every episode of the Wise Money Show is on podcast. Wherever you listen, go check it out. Subscribe to us there. And then, rate the program as well. We appreciate that. All right. So we left off. We're talking through the biggest changes within the Secure Act 2.0 that will impact, not if they'll impact, they will impact your financial plan, your financial decisions. So you need comprehensive financial planning to distill, all right, what would wisdom do? You just keep on doing what you're doing? Or is there a forced change? Or is there now a better option? You've got to look at all 6 areas of your financial life to determine whether that's the case. So many of these rules are tax rules that impact how you save, present financial position, what your condition will be like in retirement planning, and how you should save up and therefore invest these dollars, investment planning. I mean, right there alone, that's easy 4 of the 6 areas of your financial life, and they certainly all have estate implications as well. Mm-hmm. All right, so one of the rules we just left off on, but I want to just kind of draw it out a little bit more, is there's a new rule starting in 2024 that if you make more than $145,000 and you're doing a catch-up contribution, your catch-up contribution must go in the Roth 401k, so no longer deducted. This is one of the few requirements built in. A lot of the Secure Act 2.0 just gives you more choice. This is a requirement, so not sure how I feel about that. But guys, how do you feel about it? What are some of the planning implications you might draw out?
A lot of times we're working with clients that are in their peak earning years. They're age 50 to retirement, that age band. They're trying to play catch up on a goal, and they're in a higher tax bracket than maybe they've ever been before, potentially. Mm-hmm. And so those are, by definition, the folks who would benefit the most from pre-tax contributions to the retirement account if they are in a higher tax bracket. And so to kind of have this one pulled away and say, well, no, it's got to be after tax or it has to be Roth catch-up contributions, it does feel like the government's just kind of forcing your hand to do something that may or may not be to your advantage. There's nothing wrong with making a contribution to a Roth. I mean, let's at least state that, right? Like getting to retirement and having money in a Roth IRA is not a bad thing. It's just we like to have the control with our clients, right? Like we want to be able to have options and choice, not have it be dictated. So it just
some of those folks should be putting every penny into the Roth side of their 401k.
Sure.
And some folks shouldn't be putting a penny into the Roth side of their 401k. And so it would be nice to have that choice. The big idea, though, is you want to know what should you be funding so that you've got various tax-favored accounts when you hit retirement, that you've got levers that you can pull and move and say, where do I get the money from, and how do I get it in a way that's the most tax-favored way to live out the 20 or 30 years, however long the Lord gives you to finish your life.
Yeah. Okay, so when does the catch-up contribution start? What age? 50? What's going on in the typical 50-year-old's life at that time? Kids in college.
Yeah, it depends on when you started with kids, but they're either finishing college or getting started with college.
And there's a important tax credit that goes along with college. And, while we're trying to deal with the student loan debt crisis, and they're even expanding some of these rules with the 529 plan to encourage people to save up and not need to rely on loans, I think there's going to be a bunch of people that need the American Opportunity Tax Credit at that time, in their early 50s, and this reduces a deduction that they're going to be able to get and cause a lot of people to no longer receive the American Opportunity Tax Credit.
That's exactly right. What Mike's referring to is a strategy that says, I'm going to help bring my income level down on the tax return and make myself eligible for some tax credits related to college. But I do that by making contributions to my retirement account. If all of a sudden your catch-up contributions can't count towards that effort, then what if you were just on the cusp of being eligible and you can't get there because now your catch-up contributions have to be Roth?
Makes that HSA even more important now. You know, if you've got a qualifying high deductible health plan, that HSA and maxing it out is even more important, even a bigger piece of your retirement puzzle. One of the other changes, we're going to hit a few others and talk about planning implications. I told you there's just no way we're going to be able to explain all of them. Next week's show is going to be about the Secure Act as well. But matching contributions, now apparently this is starting right now, I believe, once companies get it figured out. But matching contributions can now go into the Roth 401k. We talked about this, guys. You might not remember. We talked about this a year ago before this was even being kicked around. It was, well, why don't they let you do it? Well, now you're able to once they figure out the logistics of it. The question, though, is how are you going to handle the tax withholding? Because your employer match is now going to be included as income on your W-2, but there's no withholdings for it. And so it's essentially like doing a Roth conversion without having any taxes withheld. And I think that could get a lot of people, because I like the idea of electing saying, you know what, I'm okay paying tax in 12% tax bracket, or I'm okay paying tax in 22% tax bracket. So employer, will you just make my match?
Or none percent tax bracket.
Right.
Yeah.
We just make my match be your Roth. I like the simplicity of it, but it's going to create some tax withholding challenges.
Yeah, and we were, I don't know if we're going down a rabbit trail or not, but this emergency savings where I can pull money out every year and these various things. I do like if you're starting, if you're just getting started and you say, I'm working at a company that I probably won't end my career at this company, I would encourage you to put money on the Roth side almost no matter where you are, because you're going to transition at some point. And those dollars, some of those dollars will be accessible to you in your transition.
Right.
So I like having, I like building in maximum flexibility and hopefully not using it. It's like having a home equity line of credit. I like to have it. I like to not use it.
Yep. Speaking of the employer match, there's also a provision in here that I haven't heard many people unpack this a whole lot just yet. But allowing employers to build into their 401k the ability to make a match even though the employee didn't make a contribution to the plan, they instead made student loan payments.
Yep.
Another complexity, like how do you track that, right?
Oh, my word.
The kind of reporting that would have to go to the employer so that they know how much to match. But, this is just kind of Congress throwing all kinds of ideas out there, trying to incentivize employers and recent graduates to get started on your retirement saving early.
Who's paying on student loans?
Yeah, that's right.
No, that incentive assumes that people are going to have to start paying on their student loans, which they haven't had to do in 2 years.
Yeah.
Almost 3. So
can you get
knows?
a match if the government pays your student loans for you?
Oh, that's interesting. Interesting idea. All right, so a couple others we're going to sneak in, and we're going to do more shows on this. But there's two. They've loosened some of the rules and made new rules regarding how you can access your retirement plan dollars even when you're still working. And they've loosened those rules. I think this is in response to going through COVID, and the number one financial regret going through COVID was, I wish I had access to more cash. I wish I had a bigger emergency fund, something like that. The IRS is trying to put the cape on, or the Congress is trying to put the cape on and say, we're your hero. We will come in and save you. I think this is confusing, and it's not officially going to be a help to anyone, in my opinion. Okay. And we don't have time to fully unpack that opinion of mine, but there's a new emergency withdrawal exception, which gives you access to withdraw $1,000 a year out of your 401k. It's taxable. It's not penalized. You've got 3 years to pay that $1,000 back. You can take $1,000 each year, but only if you continue to contribute. You have to contribute another 1,000 before you can take another 1,000 out. It is so confusing. And then another rule where they're going to allow you to make create an emergency fund attached to your 401k where you contribute into that instead of to your 401k up to $2,500. But if you make too much money, you're not allowed to do it. My goodness, guys. So lots of rules. The point is you need financial planning. Work with your CFP. How do these rules impact you? What adjustments do you need to make? Reach out to your CFP. That's all the time we have for today. On behalf of Josh Gregory, Kevin Korhorn, all of us at KFG, have a great weekend. We'll see you next Saturday for the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group.
Securities offered through Silver Oak Securities, member FINRA/SIPC. Advisory services offered through KFG Wealth Management, LLC. Doing business as Korhorn Financial Group. KFG Wealth Management, LLC and Silver Oak Securities Incorporated companies are unaffiliated.